my wonderful Momplex community. I'm really excited about today. I've been looking forward to this conversation. We booked it a while ago, but today I'm talking with Alissa Jerud. She's a clinical psychologist. She's a professor. She's a mom. She's an author. And she's sitting in the middle of a snowstorm with her beautiful boys right now. And she's here and she's going to give us so much support, which we need right now more than ever when I know that we are feeling the pressure of we are working so hard and yet things can still feel like, why am I frazzled? Why do I feel like things are not working? Why do I still feel this pressure of perfectionism? And she specializes in helping families handle anxiety, big feelings, and those real emotional challenges that come with parenting, because parenting doesn't always follow the way we think it, quote, should. And Alissa helps us do this without shame, which I love. That's like the thing that we're trying to break through constantly. And we're going to get through the shame, the blame, and that pressure of perfectionism. And honestly, this conversation is something that parents really need at any stage. And so I'm really happy that you're here. And I just want to give you the microphone to welcome you and introduce yourself to everybody. So, Alissa, welcome.
Oh my goodness. Thank you so much. Thank you for that beautiful introduction. I don't know how I can top that. But I'll just say I'm really excited to be here. I will note that I do have one boy. I have a girl. My
Precious.
kids are, I give her credit there. My kids are 12 and 8, almost 13 and 9.
Okay.
And they're home right now because we're in the middle of a blizzard here in the Northeast. But yeah, I'm a licensed clinical psychologist. Like you said, I primarily specialize in evidence-based treatments for anxiety-related disorders and emotion regulation difficulties.
Okay.
Those that come with parenting. And I'm so passionate about that, right? Like helping people to better navigate the painful, unwanted emotions that we all encounter. But as parents, I think we especially encounter that. I ended up writing this book, Emotion thing that really aims to help parents just be able to show up more in line with how they actually want to show up with their kids. Because the thing about our emotions is they're really valuable, they're important. We never want to ignore them, but they can very easily take us away from acting in ways that align with who we want to be as people and as parents. And so I wanted to give parents some tools to help them so that their emotions, those unwanted emotions, our painful emotions don't call the shots.
Yeah. And also I have it, we're going to be on YouTube. So I have it right here and we're going to put the links in the show notes so everybody can go find it. What I think is really helpful, because you talk about things that they don't talk about in the baby books, right? You know, when I found out I was pregnant, I was a voracious reader. I'm an excellent student. And I thought, if I read all this, I'm going to learn how to swaddle my kid, and I'm going to be on the every 3 hours, and I'm going to, make the baby food. I'm going to be the best mom. And I remember looking at my daughter and I was like, I'm going to be the perfect mom, and then you get home and it's like a slap in the face, because what she just decided she didn't want to sleep and she didn't want to eat every 3 hours. And so all those new emotions that I couldn't put words to started to bubble up, and I didn't have that manual. And so what did you do? You started to look outside of yourself, maybe to your mom or your mother-in-law or maybe friends. And if somebody else didn't necessarily go through that exactly, it was hard to identify. And so what I appreciate in your book specifically is that you start to name some things that maybe moms don't know that that's normal, right? Like what you're saying, to kind of get rid of the shame and the blame, that these feelings, while they might be uncomfortable, they're part of it, and I think getting comfortable with that discomfort allows us to, what you say, not necessarily let it take us over and disalign us from who we are, right? But to kind of help us say like, oh, that's me. That's still me. But what is it trying to tell me,
Yeah.
So I wish this was handed to me versus this is how you breastfeed your children. I mean, I did that too. But so I want to talk about this. So why do you think, well, first of all, this is kind of a broad question. Do you think that we're kind of overthinking parenting sometimes? Do you think we're just putting so much pressure on ourselves sometimes?
Yes. When had it, right? Yeah. I mean, because
end of the podcast. Yes, we're done. Yes.
There you go. But I mean, if you think about it, I make so much, right? Our kids, for most of us, we love them more than anything in this world. And so we want to do right by them. We want to do our best job possible. And pressure right there,
Yeah.
right? Because we're human, we're going to make mistakes. And then you compound that with like so many other factors, right? The fact that there are so many mixed messages out there about the right way to parent.
Yeah.
And so it can be really overwhelming as a parent to know how do I sort through all of that. And then we also see these comparisons with other parents who seem to be, I don't know, or more chill than we are, or they seem to have it together more. Their kids seem better behaved. And sometimes, again, we find ourselves feeling like we're falling short in
Yeah.
way.
Yeah.
And it can just be really overwhelming and can take away from some of the joy that we experience when parenting. And so that's
Yeah.
part of why I wanted to write this book too, right? To make it that parenting can be somewhat more joyful and rewarding because it is
Yeah.
this really amazing thing that we all get to do. And I think sometimes we just kind of, it's hard to see that
Yeah.
when we are drowning essentially in all the pressure we're putting on ourselves, all the demands that come with parenting.
Yeah. Well, the drowning and the demands. I know my mom looks at my life right now and she just doesn't. This is not how we live. This, the pressure of just the sports, the academics, after school activities, in addition to, just grabbing your phone,
Yeah.
right? And just the flow of information. So I actually appreciate there's this kind of pendulum swing that I'm feeling in my body where I'm almost wanting to go back to the classics, right? The pen
Mhm.
to the paper, the book, the putting the phone down, because I'm feeling so well, AI is here to stay. So, right, we need to get used to that. But it's like I'm feeling so inundated with the phone, the pressure, and it's hard to discern what is mine, what is my feeling, what's my idea, what's my notion when it's hard to even catch your breath, right? So I appreciate that it's even a book to kind of slow down, to go back to just like, can we quiet the noise and just, do I even feel that way? I don't even know. Is that my feeling or is that my friend's feeling? Right.
Yeah. 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 And yeah, I was just going to build on that just to
Yeah. Build on it. Yeah. Cause it's,
extracurricular, trying to drive kids everywhere and
yeah.
do part of that. So we feel the need to put our kids in every activity possible. We feel
Yes.
the need to be with our kids at all times, like entertain them. And part of also what I'm hoping for is to kind of lighten the load a little bit for parents.
Mm-hmm.
Uh,
Mm-hmm.
and our whole, right, like we try to do will be one or two at most sport per kind of season because I just can't do more than that, right?
Yeah.
Like, we all want to do more than that
Yeah.
too much for me to try to drive my kids to so many different places. And then also, today it's a beautiful snow day. I am a little under the weather, and usually I go out with my kids to play in the snow. And today I just said, you know what? You guys are welcome to go out. I'm going to stay inside. And I got some like small little chores done, but I
Yeah.
didn't put that on myself to get out
Mm,
there, right? When I wasn't
yeah.
really feeling up for it. And they have fun without me too.
Yeah. Well, it's okay for them to also see you as a human being. I think sometimes moms, I did this for a long time. If I wasn't always living a certain way, then the world would fall apart. Things would fall through the cracks. And so I never even let myself get sick. But that my body didn't, my body was like, well, I like that you think you're not going to get sick, but we're still going to get sick. Um, yeah, it's like I try to will that away. Like I'm not going to let myself get sick. But then my kids actually got into the habit that I never got sick. So they actually got uncomfortable when I would, the routine would get off. So it's actually nice, I think, sometimes when we say this is how it is today, and we're okay with that. So, can we talk about, I love that you actually brought up the decision that you've made that you're going to just do one, right? Like one activity. I think because that's hard for parents right now. Their kid will come home and say, "Mom, you know, Stewie's in, this and this and this, and my best friend's here, and I want to do this. Can I just sign up? It's not that big of a deal. Not to mention it costs a fortune. It's so hard to get places. But as a mom, you think, okay, I don't want to say no. It's great. Why not? Maybe we could, you can almost talk yourself into it. But those emotions, like what's building in us? What is that conflict in us that's happening when, we know deep down that maybe we shouldn't do it, but then our brain is talking us out of like, just do it. Like what's going on there and how can we help us make the best decision for us and
Yeah.
not our neighbor?
Yeah, yeah. Well, I mean, it probably varies from person to person, but my guess is two emotions come to mind.
Yeah.
One is anxiety, right?
Yeah.
Like, oh no, I again, like if I don't do this, I'm going to fail my kid.
Yeah.
Uh, I won't be the perfect mom I want to be. And so therefore they must do it. Otherwise, who knows what their futures they'll look like if I don't get them in this activity.
Yeah.
So I think there's probably some anxiety there. And then also maybe guilt too, right? Like
Yeah.
a right way to do things. I should be able to do everything for my kid. I should always try to
Mm.
around. And
Mhm.
so when we feel like maybe we aren't going to do that, we may feel some guilt as well. There are probably other emotions there too. But I think just recognizing that and that those emotions are normal, they're
Yeah.
natural to feel. And we don't necessarily have to do what those emotions are pulling for. The anxiety usually tries to pull us to avoid that anxiety. And in this instance, the way to avoid would be actually to say yes. Yes, you that activity, because then I don't have to feel the anxiety I feel about saying no and you
Yeah.
possibly missing out on something. Right.
Hmm.
And then guilt
Hmm.
depends, but guilt can lead us just to, again, same thing. We don't want to feel that. So we end up doing whatever we can to not have to feel that guilt oftentimes. So we kind of bend over backward, take on more than we really should, or than what would be ideal for us, again, to escape that discomfort. And so I think in both of those cases, it would be ideally like whatever that emotion is to recognize, yeah, I'm feeling anxious, feeling guilty. Maybe I'm feeling some other emotion. There's a strong pull in me to just say yes, let my kids sign up for that activity so I don't have to feel so uncomfortable. And I know it's probably going to lead me to feel a lot more uncomfortable down the road when I'm
Yeah.
trying to get to 10 different places, all in the same day. And so I'm going to let myself feel those feelings. And they,
Yeah. I like the way you explained it. I mean, it's what's the quickest way to make that discomfort go away? To say yes, to move forward, to stay busy. I mean, it's like if you're go, 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 and it's your brain is like, I'm such a good mom.
yep.
How could that be wrong? I did what they asked, and you almost think if I'm suffering, then it's okay. My kid's not suffering, but my kids are older. I've got a freshman in college. So I've got 18, 17, and 13.
Okay.
And I lived under this belief that it doesn't matter if I'm in pain. As long as they're okay, then my pain won't matter. But that joke's on me because that could only I mean, it's almost like adrenaline. You can only go that for so long. And then after a while, I was like, actually, it's kind of affecting everybody. And that was a really hard lesson for me to learn. And I had to kind of admit that. And they had to kind of admit that. I mean, I've told this on the podcast before, but my daughter literally looked at me and said, I don't know if I want to be a mom because you look
Wow.
horrible. And that was such a horrible but beautiful slap in the face for me because I realized you can't actually live in a bubble as a mom. It does affect you. So,
Oh my goodness.
yeah.
I will just know I have a feeling most of your listeners and myself included, we've been there before, right? Where
Yeah.
you think you can do it all and like that's the right thing to do. That being a martyr essentially for your children. And but it wears you out completely, burns you out. And again, is that really the path that you want your kids to go down? Do you want to model that for them? And
Yeah.
so you were able to recognize that
Yeah.
no, wasn't healthy for you. And it wouldn't be healthy for your daughter down the road either.
Yeah.
And make the pivot. But
Yeah.
a lot of
You
strength, but more courage.
well, it's my goal honestly with these conversations is, for people to learn about you, to learn about your book and to hear these conversations in the hopes that they don't get as far down the road that I was and maybe start to hear their body talking to them a little bit faster or sooner.
Right.
Because, a lot of moms listening, very capable, very driven, very high functioning, multitasking, ambitious women but emotionally exhausted, and they're getting used to being emotionally exhausted. That's becoming the normal, and I'm seeing a lot of high functioning I was this way, a high functioning parent struggling the most when it comes to emotional regulation for themselves and their kids, right? Like,
Mhm.
we're so good at juggling everything, but we're kind of just piling it on, and we're
Mhm.
just getting stronger and stronger and stronger and thinking, "Ooh, tough season. I'll just get stronger." Versus, kind of slowing down and saying, "Where is this hard for me? Where is that neck pain isn't going away?" That stress, that numbness, that dullness, where they're kind of brushing it all aside and thinking, I guess this is mom life. I guess this is just how I'm supposed to feel. And then, I lived that way for a dozen years and then my body finally gave out on me. But what I'm hoping is that we start to highlight that those are actually beautiful signals your body's sending to you. It doesn't have to feel that way. And we can start to make some smaller adjustments. So talk to me a little bit about just how this all came to be. I know you talked about how you wanted to help, but talk about your journey, how, everything like your journey to you're a professor, you're a clinical psychologist. Like how did you decide to write the book and where did this all come to be and how has it affected you and how have you seen it benefit your clients and how has it affected benefiting your children and your relationship? All the good stuff.
Oh my goodness, that is quite a question. I love it. They're all having. Well, I will say the idea to write the book came when I was, as a mom, finding myself really struggling.
Okay.
And I wrote about this in the book, but
Yeah.
I've given birth to my son and I was not enjoying parenting. Specifically, I was really struggling with my daughter. She was 4 years old at the time. And understandably, she was out of sorts because her world had been turned upside down. My world had been turned upside down. And we were butting heads a lot. And I was just like dreading moments when I
Mm.
was one on one with her. And it
Mhm.
was just, or when I was, with both kids and on my own. I found it so overwhelming, so draining. And at some point, and I go into this more in the book, but I kind of realized that my attempts to get my daughter to change, to comply, to, like get out the door on time or whatever it was, to not make a giant mess, to not do the things that were upsetting me so much, that those attempts were my way of trying to cope with the uncomfortable feelings that I was
Mm. Mhm.
feeling like I was desperate to find some way to get her to shape up. And yet they were actually leading probably to more of the behavior that I was finding so challenging and also leading me to feel really terrible about myself and about my relationship with my daughter.
Yeah.
And well, at some point I made this realization, right, like it's not working what I'm doing. And I also noticed that so I was attempting to try to get my daughter to change, wasn't working. And I realized it was very similar to what my patients oftentimes were doing in the case of anxiety, right? They were feeling anxious and trying to avoid that anxiety in some way, fight it, trying to make it go away. So
Yeah.
they want to feel so anxious, which made a lot of sense, right? Like in
Yeah.
the moment, maybe it would work for them. They would do something to reduce that anxiety and anxiety would go down. But the problem is the next time around, they found themselves in a similar situation. They needed to resort to those same avoidance tactics or
Yeah.
behavior. And again, just kind of kept their anxiety high. And I realized, like, oh, it's essentially the same thing that's happening with my daughter, that I'm finding myself feeling uncomfortable in a given situation. But instead of just sitting with that feeling and trying to get her to change,
Mhm.
which sometimes works in the moment, most of the time it wasn't working in the moment.
Yeah.
But it was also teaching me that I couldn't tolerate that discomfort that I was
Mm.
then and there.
Yeah. Yeah.
So I made that realization for myself.
Mm.
And yet it took a really long time to actually shift away from trying to change her. But I was lucky in that I had, the background, the training that I had had over years in learning skills, in regulating emotions, in relating more skillfully to unwanted emotion. Right? So I started using them in my own life in moments where I just felt so desperate to, get my daughter to do something different.
Yeah.
And then I started using those same skills, those same perspectives and strategies with patients as
Yeah.
well. And found that it was freeing for them too, just as it was for me, right? Shifting away from trying to control something that isn't ours to control can be really life-changing and empowering.
Yeah.
It's a long, long answer to your question.
But it's so helpful and it's something that I related to so much because my daughter's my firstborn and we kind of had that same, well, I had that same narrative, like it's not working. And I think a lot of people look outside of themselves for someone or something to change in order for them to feel better. I'll feel better when. I
Right.
will feel better if. And
Yeah.
it just puts so much pressure on the other person or thing to
Yeah. Or even
become.
on too, to try to change that other
Yeah,
person.
true. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. And you talk about this, but just like how, you taking care of yourself just improves that relationship and improves the building of the connection, because then it just allows things to be more effortless, right? It just kind of relaxes everything. And I have felt that tremendously with my own work. When I finally started to take radical responsibility, getting comfortable with the discomfort, and just learning how to teach, going back to school, so to speak, with myself. Like, this is how you feel emotions. It has, like, the pressure in the house has dropped. I felt that same way of just like rushing out the door. If I just follow the rules, if we just, if we had this container of just perfection, then I would feel good, right? Even if it meant yelling and racing and rushing and all these kinds of stressful situations. And now realizing, okay, that's, if I work on me and I get comfortable with me, then there's a lot more comfort and connection in the house. And I've noticed I don't yell with my kids anymore. That's beautiful, but I love that. Um, and it's great. It's fair for them, because they didn't really ask for anything except to just be here with us, right?
Or yeah. Yeah.
So what about a mom who's listening right now and maybe she's identifying, maybe she's feeling some pressure, but she's not sure if that's really what we're talking about. What are some signals or some signs that could be something that she could look for? Maybe some disconnection or some, um, I guess, just where she might notice where she's putting pressure on herself and her life to try and like avoid that discomfort or get rid of the anxiety with something else.
Yeah. Well, I think the big thing is just noticing those moments oftentimes where we feel like we must do something right here, right now. Right.
Okay.
Like, I need to change how I'm doing everything this
Mm.
moment, or I need to get my kid to change in this moment. I think that's
Oh,
oftentimes
yeah.
a sign. And one of the first things that I recommend whenever trying to make any kind of behavior change is just to start increasing awareness of the behavior you're wanting to change. Just start noticing, right? If there are moments where I'm finding myself, maybe I'm flooded with anger, right? And then I'm acting in a way like I'm acting on that anger. I'm yelling. I'm trying to control, to get my kid to view things from my perspective, to get my kid to do something that they're not wanting to do, or, whatever it is. Just notice them first. I would say the first that, and sometimes it's even just like pausing in a moment, like when you're starting to feel heated or there's some tension that's putting in that moment, just taking a moment to notice it. So yesterday that happened in my home where I noticed, I was finding myself feeling really, really overwhelmed.
Yeah.
Like one of my kids, it seemed like they were being completely unreasonable in that moment. And I was like, oh my gosh, like I just want to get them to realize nobody meant to do anything and it's okay. And I caught myself. Oh yeah, I'm feeling like I have to fix this right here, right now. I don't have to fix this, right? I can
Mm.
allow them to be upset. I can feel uncomfortable and things not being resolved and them being angry with me and their sibling and kind of, all of that. And I just noticed that in that moment. And it was like, oh, it was just like so freeing. But
Yeah.
and just that awareness piece takes some practice. And so the more parents can kind of tune into those moments, look out for them, maybe even jot them down in a notebook.
Okay.
The
And then so you're saying it's just like taking practice too of just because we are so in the habit of wanting to fix it. And our kids come to us and they want it to be fixed, right? We are the fixer. We are I call us like the CEO, the CFO, the nucleus of we're kind of the mitochondria and the nucleus and the everything in the house, right? We're in charge of everything. So it is a shift to all of a sudden say, and we're just going to swim in the discomfort and we'll be okay. But just practice it and talk through it. You have a 12-year-old. You're knocking on the door of, preteen. I've got some teenagers. Hormones are a thing. I'm also in perimenopause. Hormones are a thing.
Totally.
Lots of ups and downs. We're kind of like a roller coaster. What are some tips, if you have any, that can help a mom if, say, her kid is acting so different? They're coming home from school. Maybe they're not talking to them anymore. Maybe they're rolling their eyes more. Maybe they're shutting the door in their face or they're just not liking them anymore, right? Like we're getting into that 13 to 19 where, really, maybe we don't our kids think we don't say anything right anymore.
Yeah.
How do we handle those emotions and be patient and deal with that discomfort? And then our kids are going to be dealing with stuff they probably never felt before. How do we deal with that? That's a lot. So that's a lot. So you can fix all of that for everybody. And
Yeah.
yeah.
It's easier said than done, for sure. It is so hard when it seems like your kid is, being rude and disrespectful or unkind or ungrateful, and you're just trying to like shower them with love in a moment,
Yeah.
or check in to see what's going on for them. Like, you're not trying to do anything, or maybe sometimes in a moment you weren't showing up your best, and what do you know, your kid explodes at you. But
Yeah.
it can be like, it can be really hard to know how to best navigate that. And I think the more we can recognize that our kid brains, even those older teens who most often seem like they've got it put together, right? They know what they're, they know how to conduct themselves. They can do just fine at school and not, have huge outbursts. But yet they're having these huge outbursts at home, or they're, giving us the cold shoulder, or whatever it may be. Recognize that their brains are going through some intense development. They don't
Yeah.
like what we call the prefrontal cortex, that part of our brains that allows us to inhibit unhelpful urges that come with strong emotion. Part of the brain is still developing. It's not ready yet to put the brakes on those unwanted impulses that they may have at times. And so in a moment, whether it's because they had a fight with a friend, they didn't do as well as they wanted to on their test, or they're just exhausted,
Yeah.
or something else, but there's something going on for them, and in that moment, they don't have the ability to say like, all right, like, I want to be loving and kind to my mom at all times. So even we're on a little like end, I'm gonna say, thanks so much for asking, Mom. Let me tell you all about my day. Right? They just don't have that ability. And so, well, the more you can recognize that, and recognize in some way, for the slam of the door slamming in your face, the screaming, I hate you, you never get it, or whatever it may be, that's just almost like them crying out for help. Sometimes the help they need is just the space to feel what they want, not for you to swoop in and fix it.
There it is. Not to fix it. Right. Yeah.
To give them permission to feel that way. Right. It's hard as a parent. And I think there's this other piece too of like, day in and day out, your kid is just like, seems like a completely different person. They're not willing to talk to you at all. I think it's worth a moment of time where they aren't especially dysregulated to check in with them. I can't help but notice that you seem more withdrawn. You're spending a lot of time in your room recently.
Okay.
I want to check in to see how things are going for you, if there's anything you want to share with me. And they say no, leave it at that. But let them know that you're there. Like, I want you to know I'm here if you ever do want to talk. And then try to give you space, let you have that time in your room. And please know, my door is always open if you ever do want it.
I love that. And so let me just make sure I heard you correctly. It's not in the moment when they're slamming the door. It's finding a time when you feel like, oh, they're eating their cornflakes and they're feeling, or we're on the sofa. Just, hey, but not in that moment when they're charged.
Yeah, exactly.
Okay.
Some parents prefer to do it, or kids may even prefer like in the car where you don't have to make eye contact, or you're on a walk, or or eating their breakfast. Maybe you're on the other side of the kitchen making your breakfast, and you can kind of just throw it out there for them to and going on. Because sometimes, maybe there's a really big problem they're struggling with, and that's part of why they're kind of shutting you out, and it might be helpful to bring you in and then be able to troubleshoot with them. Other times, no. It's just like you said, the hormones are raging and there are lots of things going on in their life that they don't need our assistance navigating, but that's going to lead to them kind of maybe acting out a little more.
It's really helpful, though, too, how you explained it. It's motherhood feels so personal, but a lot of the times it isn't. And it's hard to, you have to talk to yourself and say, they also had a day that has nothing to do with you. And I know you are like, you want to talk to them and you want to be included, but they just want to be left alone. And that doesn't mean they are not choosing you. And I think that's that hard moment, almost like you said, practicing, not fixing it. It's like practicing, remembering that it's not always about you. And that's one of the hardest things that I've had to learn about motherhood. It's like the least personal role in the world. It feels so personal, but a lot of the times it isn't, and that's hard, right? Because you have to be a a tough detective, but soft landing when they need it, and it's more than ever, you have to regulate yourself so that you can adjust to be. Um, do you have any tips on like what I know me when I am feeling anxious, I've learned that grounding and movement really helps me a lot. I can just process that. But it's taken me a lot of practice and time to figure out how that has helped me. It don't always mean I have to go do a massively hard workout. Sometimes just walking to the mailbox and like flapping my arms like a bird helps me so much. But what are some other things that just can if a mom is feeling like she wants to fix it and she's standing at the door and he just slammed the door in her face and she's about to start crying or yelling or just wants to open the door, what are like 2 or 3 things that she could try instead that will help her process that anxiety and just help her channel it?
Yeah, well, I think it depends in part on whether is it anxiety or is it a different emotion that I'm
Oh,
off.
okay, good. Yeah, maybe I'm generalizing. Yeah, yeah. Whatever she's
Mm.
feeling. Yeah.
Right. You said what? Say it again.
Whatever she might be
Whatever
feeling.
she knows
That
that.
yeah.
Really depends. So, I get into this a lot in the book, but knowing the emotion can help to guide the intervention.
Mhm.
Do so again, if
Mhm.
you think about anxiety, oftentimes the urge is to try to avoid that anxiety in some way. So, like, to want to try to knock on that door again to talk about it with your kid. That might be an example. If you're feeling really anxious, you want to try to solve it in that moment, even though that might not be the best moment. So in that moment, I would suggest not trying to solve it, not being over. And really, for me, with anxiety, that's the thing that I actually encourage most of all is not trying to get that anxiety to go away in any way.
Mm.
So if it was time for you to go out and go for a run, go for that run, but not as a way to reduce anxiety. Because
Okay.
those ends up behaviors when we try to do something to get rid of anxiety, it may work in the moment, but oftentimes in the long run, they don't help us learn that we can sit with that anxiety. We can tolerate that. We don't get a chance to even see that. Oftentimes, if we allow anxiety to be there, we may even run its natural course. And
Oh,
so
okay.
I might, for instance, let's say you're worried that like maybe your kid's having a hard time at school.
Mhm.
I might actually suggest accepting that possibility, acknowledging that, leaning into that idea, or maybe they're having a hard time. Hopefully they'll open up to me. But I'm going to just accept that as a possibility. And then I'd say go about your day, right?
Okay.
Whatever it is that you need to be doing, if you need to make dinner, if you need to get some work done, if you were going to go for that program, do whatever it may be while letting that thought that, maybe they're having a tough time at
Ah.
school buzz around, not trying to fix it. Like, oh, no, I'm sure everything's okay. Or, oh, who can I talk to figure out if they're having a hard time?
Yeah.
Right? Letting be there for anxiety. Or let's say it's anger. You want to like scream at your kid or punish them because it's not okay for them to slam the door in your face. I would suggest thinking about keeping in mind that oftentimes anger comes with like these intense physiological sensations in our body. Maybe our heart's racing, we're feeling hot and sweaty, right? Our muscles are tense. And so I think about then doing something that might help you to not to kind of cool down the temperature of that anger
Mhm.
so that you don't do something you could regret.
Mm. Mm.
And one, you can act opposite to that anger, there's a skill called opposite action, which is really about noticing what's the urge that comes with that emotion. And let me do the exact opposite, right? Times the urge with anger, it's to fight. So let me gently avoid in that moment. Right now, I'm not going to fight. I'm going to gently remove myself from the situation. Maybe to say a really kind word quietly through the door. You know,
Mm.
just, I love you. I know you're upset right now. I love you. I'm here if you want.
Love that.
And then, the other idea would be to do something to cool the physiological arousal in the body, right? So I go through a set of skills called the care skill in my book,
Yeah. Yeah. I
bring
love
in
that.
as well.
It's really, and it's a good reminder. Well, one, it's a tough education, right? To let it be what it is, because I think it's just the habit of all of us, right? We think we're trying to fix it for everybody, but we're really trying to make ourselves feel better, right? Um, but I really appreciate what you just reminded us. Like we're allowed to go on with our day, right? We're allowed, we're still us, and we were still fine, we were had a whole day going on, and that's okay even if they're having a tough day. And if we are continue on with our day, there's something really special and beautiful about that, right? Because it means we're taking care of ourselves, right?
Yeah, and I would say in general, even let's say it's our emotion that's really intense in that moment,
Yeah.
right? You're
Yeah.
still going about your day, doing the things that matter to you and that are important to you.
Yeah.
That is one of the healthiest things we can do for ourselves, because
Yeah.
then we're not letting, the emotion, if we're feeling really sad, the emotion of sadness usually leads us to want to withdraw and to like curl up into bed and, shut out the world. And so instead, no, I can feel sad and I can go about my day anyway. And that
I love it.
sadness doesn't have to take over. And so I think it's both helpful for our kids, but also even more so for
Love
us
it.
to learn we can let those feelings, those unwanted feelings, tag along for the ride, still do all the things that are important to us.
I love it. I love it. I think it's great because I know, similar to what you were talking about with your own kids, today you could have pushed yourself and gone outside and done what you thought was right. You're not feeling good, but like it's like this beautiful way that we can dance and take care of ourselves and coexist and not necessarily, I guess, abandon ourselves, abandon our emotions. And, and let them see that. They get to see that they have their own emotional experience and we're continuing on to live our life. It's nice also for them to know that they are allowed to have their feelings and we're going to be okay too. Right? Like that we can still live even if they're upset or sad and that we are gonna be okay, and I think that's a really important lesson, right?
Yeah, yeah. And I think a lesson that maybe not all of us got when we were a kid, right? That like, yes, so I'm in the eggshell to make sure to not bring up an unwanted emotion in our parent, right? Um,
And I mean, that is hard. That is a very heavy thing to carry around as a kid, and I don't think any of it was intended. None of it is intended, but it's this, that's what I joke when I say that this should have been handed out at the hospital, but there's just, there's so much information in our bodies, but there's just such a lack of education around it. I mean, you went to school for this, higher education, you've decided to become an expert and you've written books on it. You have patience. So you've become, further and further educated. And it's wonderful that you're sharing it. But if we don't know it, we don't know it. And I think that's such a miss because our bodies are so wise and they are trying to communicate with us all the time and guide us and help us. But this is this is a very this is a huge puzzle piece, I believe, missing in parenting and life navigation. And I'm having to seek it out myself, and I wish this was better shared. Like, why can I wish teach me how to balance checkbook, do my taxes, and manage my emotions. I didn't need to learn the Pythagorean theorem. I just didn't, but whatever. I mean, there's so much good stuff in here. I'm halfway through right now, but let's talk a little bit about like if so you talk about acceptance and you talk about when things are going well. I think a lot of times what we're always striving for is things are going well. And when things are not going well, we think we failed. We think that the world is falling and we're always chasing to try and get back to when things are going well. But going well, I think you talk about that's also a beautiful opportunity, right? Don't just fall asleep when things are going well, right? Like you talk about like this is a great time to like connect and to grow and to like really like this is beautiful. Like this is when we're calm. This is when we can actually, like you said, have those conversations like I'm here. I've noticed what's going on with you. Talk about that because I think when things are going well, people kind of turn on autopilot and they start to focus on other stuff. So what's the benefit of connection when things are going well and how can moms use that also as a opportunity?
yeah. Wow. That's very insightful questions. I'm just trying. Yeah, exactly. Right. I think the big thing that I would say, I'm actually gonna kind of be a little long-winded here and
Great.
start where you started initially this conversation. You were talking about your own experience as a mom, thinking you could do it all,
Mm,
right? You could get everything done, and it didn't matter if you were in pain as long as your kids weren't in pain, right?
yeah.
And I think when things are going well, sometimes we think that that's in part because we're doing everything. right? And we are keeping our kids happy at all times. We are optimally entertaining them. We're playing with them every spare second we have, and that's why
Yes.
we're going well. And I would say, yes, that might work for a while, but it's probably not going to be a very effective long-term strategy, and it can lead to burnout for us as parents. And I think maybe to our kids getting like kind of learning that the only way they can play is with us by their side, right? And so
Yeah.
I think as parents, we can see those moments where things are going well as an opportunity, yes, for sure to connect, but I think in like bite-sized amounts. Take a few moments to drop in with your kids. So if you have, for parents who are listening who have younger kids, right, or
Yeah.
moms,
Yeah. Yeah.
drop in and just watch your kid play for
Oh,
10, right? And we could talk more about how to go about that. But instead of like feeling the need to, "Oh, let me show my kid how this new toy that I got them works, and like let me suggest this next game that we're going to play together." Like kind of take some of that pressure off of yourself. Just drop in there, observe your kid,
yeah.
and then
Yeah.
whoa, do the things that you gotta do, right? Because part of what actually makes us more vulnerable to painful, unwanted emotions, to acting in ways that we don't want to act, to letting those emotions kind of dictate what we do or don't do, is when we are vulnerable. Like we're emotionally vulnerable because we haven't met our basic needs. Maybe I'm not getting
Yes.
enough sleep. I'm not taking
Yeah.
time for exercise or breaks. Nourishing my body with healthy food, right? Like I'm not prioritizing my own needs because I'm so focused on my kids. And so I think if we can see those moments where things are going well as an opportunity to actually step away a little bit. Yes, connect for a few moments at a time here and there. Connect during moments where like you really need to be there. When when your kid's in the house or when you're at the dinner table.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Maybe the other times, use those moments to fill your cup, to get your other work done so you're not up until 3 a.m. that night
Love it.
trying to catch up on emails or things like that.
Love it. Love it. That is so true. Also, what you just said, things are going well because of I'm holding this and carrying this. I love that kind of let my kids show me what they're capable of. It's like we're also like it is that pressure. That I love that you called that out. That's amazing. I love it.
And I will note that, like, if you're a mom who's used to being with your kid 24/7, they may not like the shift at first. And so those moments that otherwise would have gone really well, like, may not look so pretty for a bit. Your kid may in some way that you're not willing to, be on the floor with them at all times or, to do something with them at all times. And
Yeah.
it's all that we're coming back to knowing that you're not responsible for your kid's feeling. Like it is okay for your kid to be upset. And it's okay for you to do what you need to do to meet your own needs, knowing that in doing so, you're going to be helping your kid. Your kid's going to learn to better navigate their own unwanted emotions. They're going to learn that you trust them to be able to do that. And they're going to also see you model for them taking care of yourself, right? So again,
100%.
it's easier said than done, but I think it's important just to keep that in mind that it's okay if your kid isn't a huge fan of this shift. If you're pivoting away from spending every moment when things are going well with your kid.
It's actually and that's the preemptive to saying no when they're asking to play soccer and lacrosse and all those sports, right? It's like being able to get comfortable saying, "I know what's best for us, even if it's gonna make you uncomfortable for a minute. In the long run, I won't be burned out. In the long run, we won't be racing from place to place." It's like knowing that and that, over time, they will trust you. It's like innately, it's a beautiful conversation. I think it's great advice because I think, when you become a new mom, there's so much insecurity and there's just, you don't know what you're doing and you don't know what you don't know. Each kid is different. And so you're just trying to throw spaghetti at the wall. And sometimes, like you said, it to feel better, you're just like, "I'll do it. I'll do it." I remember just saying, "I don't even wanna tell the babysitter because it's just easier if I do it. It
Yeah,
takes less time
sure.
and energy if I put him to bed because it's gonna take more energy to explain it." And I remember my husband, he's so rational, it's so annoying. Um, he would come in and just be like, "It's okay if it's different. It's okay if their
Mhm.
bedtime routine is different than how you do it." And that was so novel to me. I was like, "It is? They can they can have a different bedtime routine than how I do it? You mean this they will fall asleep if they don't go to bed the way I do it?" And then just like all those moments, it kinda just relaxes you a little bit and they do, the earth keeps spinning, but it's hard, like you said, it's hard. And I think just even admitting that, it's okay if it's hard. It's okay if it's uncomfortable, but it's great. Oh man, this is so good. You have so much. We could talk for hours and hours. So where can everybody find you? I mean, I will put all this in the show notes, but where can everybody find you if they want to connect with you and learn more about you?
Yeah, so they can go to my website,
Okay.
alyssajerud.com. I am sort of on Instagram, so they can also find me there. The handle is Emotion Savvy Doc. And those are probably the two best places.
Perfect. I'll put everything in the show notes and the link to your book. And this has been amazing. It's questions will probably come up. And I think it's great for them that we didn't even address everything because I think there's just so much that might even be bubbled up for them. And I highly recommend that they just reach out to you and go grab the book because there is a lot of information. It is kind of a manual, right? Everybody can kind of understand what resonates with them and what speaks to them in terms of like, obviously, I have a lot of anxiety. That's the word I kept using over and over and over again. But more than anything, what I love that you're doing is just talking about stuff that hasn't been, you're just letting this become normal. You're just talking about things in a way that's making it more comfortable so that people hopefully will feel more comfortable talking about how they feel too. And then if we talk about it as moms, then our kids will feel more comfortable to talk about how they're feeling too. And just think about that. Like, that's incredible. So, well, thank you so much for braving the storm and showing up and writing your beautiful book and sharing everything. I really appreciate it.
Thank you, Scotty. It was so nice getting to talk with you.
Thank you.
Produced and distributed by the Sound Off Media Company.